It's time to pay the bill. A tribute to James Lawson and so many unmentioned others. Growing up in Cleveland in the racially segregated neighborhoods of the 1950s and early 60s, the only chance I had to be exposed to the civil rights movement was the TV news. What I saw moved me. I watched as African American people stood in lines to register to vote as segregationist authorities directed high-powered hoses or used attack dogs against the participants. I watched as a bombed-out church where 4 black children were killed was shown viewers around the country. I saw the driveway where a civil rights leader was murdered. I watched as young people sat in at segregated lunch counters refusing to move as white citizens and then police violently attacked them. I watched as they were taken off in police vans. I saw the interstate buses being integrated by black and white citizens together, and I saw their nonviolent reaction to attacks by authorities and segregationist white citizens. I didn't know then, but one of the most important training leaders of many of these people was an Ohioan. James Lawson was raised in Massillon and attended both Baldwin Wallace and Oberlin colleges. He was a declared pacifist dedicated to the nonviolent struggle for equal rights in America. Following Bayard Rustin's and Martin Luther King's example, he trained activists in nonviolent strategies that he learned from the successful Satyagraha movement while visiting India. He was expelled from Vanderbilt University, where he had enrolled for leading sit-ins at downtown Nashville lunch counters. Much later, he was hired to teach at Vanderbilt. The world was changing with the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts, but much more change was and still is needed. James Lawson spent most of his 95 years committed to nonviolent revolution, social change, and justice. He went on to be a trainer and teacher and a respected pastor, and was said to be still holding nonviolence training workshops when he passed recently. There have been so many leaders, so many workers, so many martyrs over the years, fighting first against slavery and then for equal rights and justice, many of them not widely known to us. As a former educator, I'm thinking now about Harriet and Harry T. Moore, both educators in the state of Florida. Harriet was a civil rights worker, and Harry was the executive secretary of Florida's NAACP, which focused on equal pay for equal work, the prosecution of those involved in lynching, and the effort to register black voters throughout the 1930s and 40s. The Moores kept up the work for well over 20 years while raising their 2 daughters. On the afternoon of December 25th of 1951, they celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. That night, a bomb planted under their bedroom exploded, resulting in both their deaths. No one was ever convicted of the crime, as was the case in such murders hundreds of times between the 1860s and the 1960s. An acquaintance of mine witnessed the aftermath of such an execution as a 13-year-old in a Klan family at a picnic when he was taken to a woods where 2 men were hanging, given a gun, and ordered to shoot them both, even though they were already dead. This way, they made him an accomplice to the crime at the same time they were desensitizing him. As James Lawson would have said, they can wash the blood off their hands and try to make it all normal, but what the killers can never face is that the quest for justice does not die. Former Clevelander and world-famous poet Langston Hughes wrote a poem in response to the Moore murders. And this, he says, our Harry Moore, as from the grave he cries, no bomb can kill the dreams I hold, for freedom never dies. I'm River Smith with a comment for Liberation Brew, Satyagraha Arts, and A Conspiracy to Love.